Welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. Sunny's guest is Mike Schmidtmann, founder of Trans4mers. Mike is best known for coaching business owners and sales leaders across the USA. He works to drive results in sales recruiting, new business development, and profitability. He led sales for Intercom Communications for 10 years. He then founded and built a $30 million business unit for SPS covering 5 states. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kaila. Over to you, Sunny.
Thank you, Todd. And Mike, welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation today. And thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Sunny.
And Mike, I would like to start with, learning a little bit more about you. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Right. Well, thank you. With your audience, the way I would cue it up is the things that they find easy are hard for me, and the things that they find hard are easy for me. So the easy part, I've always had a green thumb when it comes to sales. So every sales organization I've been able to join, I've been able to attract and hire great people, win new accounts, and grow the business. That's always come easy to me. The hard part for me is building the business. And so that's why I admire what you've done in your organization and the MSPs I work with. Is I admire their entrepreneurial spirit, how they grow the company, and how they put everything into it. And so I grew an organization over the years to about $30 million. I had 15 salespeople, $30 million business. And I realized that what I enjoyed most about that process, Sunny, was the growing. I loved attracting and hiring people. I loved winning the new accounts. I loved the nurturing. And I had a period of time where I had a very big buyout. I had a 7-figure accrued profit sharing. And once it got big enough, I decided to take some time off. And so I took time. I traveled all over the United States with my family. And I just took a year to kind of think, what do I want to do? So I had enough money to do something, but not enough to do nothing. So at the end, I said, okay, what do I do now? And I was approached by a person. He says, Michael, what do you like to do? And I said, I like to grow things. I like to hire people. I like to win new accounts. I like to grow. He says, well, why don't you do that for a living? I said, sounds great. So since 2008, that's what I've been doing. So I work with MSPs, they're all in the IT space. So some sell product, some sell telephone systems, some MSPs, some other type, but they're all IT related. And what I do is I come in, Sunny, and help them where their problems are. Most MSPs, as you know, are great technologists. So they're very good at growing the business. They're good at what they do. People like them. They get word of mouth and they grow. But Paul Dipple told me one time, he says, Mike, 90% of MSPs will get to 1 million, but only 10% of MSPs will get to 2 million. And so most of them stop in that 1 to 2 million range. Now, even then, they'll stop at 4 or 5 million. Even if they're really good at sales, they'll stop at 4 or 5 million. And what's the reason for that? And that's where I come in. Is when they get to a certain size, they stop growing and they get frustrated. They say, why am I not growing like I could? And that's when they need the discipline of a sales process and a sales organization. So they're good at the owner-led selling. They're good at attracting and hiring people. They're attracting and winning new business. They're good at getting customers happy with their services, but they're not good at growing the business past that point.
Yeah, we thank you for sharing that, Mike. And I want to talk about that a little bit more. That glass ceiling, right? That $1 million, $2 million, and a lot of even our MSP partners, they hit that glass ceiling and they are like, they're frustrated that what do I need to do to grow? And a very interesting topic, and I want to go deep into that area. I want to go deep into that topic. But one thing I loved about your background is that you started this branch office for a company and you grew that from ground up, right? So that's so powerful. Now that you're running the peer group, and not only that you have that expertise and that experience, you grew that branch office to 30 million plus with a lot of salespeople, and that gives you so much hands-on experience. And that's what I loved about your background. When you are helping MSP owners grow, you bring that experience and you bring your perspectives with experience, what's working, what's not working, or what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and you bring those perspectives with experience. So I'm really excited about having conversation around business growth, the MSP growth formula. So what's the biggest reason for MSP's success?
Yeah. Well, the businesses grow because the people are good at what they do. As you know, the vast majority of MSPs are founded by technologists. So they're people who do great service. They realize the customers say, well, why don't you just do this yourself? Why do I need to work? Why do I need to go through this other company? They realize there's a big business that they can do on their own. So they get an entrepreneurial seizure, they spin off, they form their own company. And the reason they're successful is because they're good at what they do. They're good, they're diligent, they're conscientious, they're hardworking, they care, customers love them. And so they grow because they're really good at what they do. And then it reaches the point, they do get word of mouth, they get referrals, but it reaches the point where they're no longer able to grow the business. And their skills at technology are not the same skills that are needed to grow the business. And so and as you know, the owner-led sales model does peak out somewhere $2, $3, $4 million. Yeah, occasionally you'll see somebody $4 or $5 million with the owner-led model. But after that, they have to have a sales process, and this does not come naturally to them because they don't have a background in sales. And so, Sunny, I would say that from my observations, think of this as 3 levels of selling comprehension. So level 1 is, I recognize it when I see it. And most MSPs have that level. They can recognize a good salesperson when they see it. The second level is they can do it. And some of the owner-led models, they're very good at sales, and so they can do it as well. And the third level is they can teach it to other people. And that's where most of them are not able to do it. And so they're able to do it themselves, but they can't train other people to do it. And so they hit that glass ceiling as well. So glass ceiling number 1 maybe hits at 2 million. Glass ceiling number 2 hits at 5 million. They'll never get past that until they have an ability to create a sales process and a sales organization. And that's where level 3 comes in. They not only have to be able to understand it and practice it, but teach it to other people. And so that's the biggest lack that I see. I don't know how that you know more MSPs than I do. Would you concur with that observation?
Absolutely. And personally, I have experienced that because in 2003, I was a technologist when I started this business. And Todd knows how IT by Design started at 47th Street, 3rd Avenue, New York City, if I was in the building on 23rd floor, and I will take my brochure to every single floor in that building and leave it with the receptionist or office manager. And hey, if you need some computer help, here is a number that you can call. And that's how we started. And, it was, so all the way up to like 2012, 13, we were just 10, 12 people company. And that's where we struggled because it was owner-led sale. It was either me or my partner, Cam. And we were not able to develop any salesperson that could repeat that success. And we could expand our capabilities by building that sales and marketing engine. And that was the aha moment for us when we started thinking of self-managed department when it comes to sales and marketing. And that's where the real growth started happening. And we started growing 10x every year once we were very intentional about building that sales and marketing engine that was running without us.
Right. Well, you were able to make that pivot, which very few people are able to do, but that's why you're successful as you are. Because you were able to make that pivot. And you see some MSPs are able to make that pivot as well. And so if they are, the sky's the limit. I mean, they're, getting past that third glass ceiling, you might say, is what you've done. So you can see it. Now, as you know, most of the MSP sales are in the owner-led sales model. And so once you get past that, very hard to do it. So what's success look like? And that's where I come in. And of course, there are a lot of very good sales gurus, you might say, in the MSP space. And so I'm friends with many of them, and I'm sure you are as well. There are many very good people. So I'm not going to, you can go many routes in the MSP world and have very good sales advice, but they tend to say the same thing, that there needs to be a defined sales process where you identify sales prospects, you work the process, get them to customer. And then once they're a customer, then grow them and grow your share of customer after that. So step. Yeah. And that's what I try to teach. Again, is not exclusive to me. There are a lot of people who have very good sales processes, but if I can make an observation, customers have what I call a buying process. And the buying process is very simple. What do you got? What's it cost? So if you go to Amazon, you want to know, what do you got? What's it cost? And when customers talk to an MSP, they want to have those two things. What do you got and what's it cost? The problem is that's not a sales process. Because if all you do is become a quote jockey and give them, here's what I got, here's what it costs, you're going to lose 90% of the time. The reason the owner-led sales is so successful is because that owner has gravitas. They understand business. They understand payroll. They understand taxes. They understand all the things that an owner has to do. Yeah. Salespeople don't understand that at all. They don't really understand all the back end things that you have to be worried about. So as an owner-led sales, you've got instant credibility. That's a business conversation. It's not a technology conversation. Yeah. So how do I impart your decades of sales, of a business experience? How do I impart that to a salesperson? Well, I can't. But what I can do is teach a sales process that's repeatable with consistent results. So that's kind of what I do, and other, Gary Pica does the same thing, and Robin Robbins and Eric Simpson and many other very fine, Kendra Lee, who you've been on, they all teach very similar step. But the difference between the buying process, which is what do you got, what's it cost, and the sales process, most sales processes are going to have 3 or 4 steps. So 1, you're going to have an initial meeting where you qualify and position your company. 2, you're going to have a discovery process where you uncover what the customer really needs, which may be different than what they think they need. As you know, you're going to find all sorts of things that they don't know. Yeah. The 3rd step is going to be where you reconcile. You have different alternatives, different solutions. You've got to get a sense from the customer what's their appetite for a solution. Do they want the full-blown solution? Do they want to just start with their toe in the pool, you might say, and grow? You've got to figure that out. And then finally, you've got a presentation step where you demo, or you demonstrate a proposal, or you give them a briefing. But that's at least 3, usually 4 selling steps, which is different than the buying process, if that makes sense. That's the biggest conundrum that I see in the marketplace, is the customers want, what do you got? What's it cost? And if you give the price too soon, you haven't uncovered customer needs, and you haven't built and differentiated your own offers. So that's why people don't sell as they can. They haven't differentiated well enough. They haven't uncovered customer needs well enough, and they haven't built value into their solution. Would you agree with that based on what you've seen?
No, absolutely. So that is, so having, so from an entrepreneurial perspective, when I used to go and talk to the customer, or my partner used to go to talk about the opportunity, it was more, you bring your experience, you bring that business mindset as well, and you are having that, owner to owner conversation normally, and you're talking business. Yeah. And how do you, first of all, build a team, the right team, where they're culturally aligned and they have the right skills and competencies. And then you have the sales playbook that you can use to give them that standardized, at least some framework to work with, and give them that understanding from the consultation approach perspective, that at the end of the day, you're filling that need, and you're creating value for the customer, right? That relationship is all about the value, and how can you have that sales team, that marketing team, where they can add value to the customers, the right value, and finding the right set of customers as well. And yeah, so exactly, we have seen that, experienced it, and the biggest obstacle that we faced was how to rinse and repeat our success of the deals that we were closing. And now, so Mike, one thing that I would like to talk about is, so process is important, as you said. And is there anything that you want to share with our viewers in terms of building a team, like a sales team? Any tips, any advice to build a team, especially in the new norm that we are in?
Well, that's a pretty loaded question for sure. There's so many moving parts to what you're talking about, because getting the right people on board is a big component. So you can have the best process in the world. If you don't have the right people carrying that out, you're not going to be successful. So attracting the right person is important. And then secondly, developing a system where they have a repeatable sales process is a second component. And then thirdly, what we're seeing more often is a growth in marketing and lead generation. It used to be salespeople would knock on doors. As you said yourself, you went from door to door, office to office. I'm guessing that's harder to do nowadays with COVID. You can't just go door to door like you used to.
And not only that, Mike, but in New York City, no one will let you enter that building anymore because of, after September 11th, everything changed.
Right. So it has in fact changed. And the same with telephone calls. That's been the most reliable way to get new business for years. And in fact, there's an organization I work with in New York City that does nothing but telemarketing calls. And they told me, I asked them, I said, what's the impact been of COVID on your business? And what they said was, and they track every metric religiously. They count how many dials each person makes. They count how many people they get on the phone. They count how many people that get on the phone set a meeting, and they count how many people that set a meeting actually show up for the meeting. So those 4 metrics. And what they found was, this will be no surprise to you, Sunny. Since April, it is harder to get people to answer the phone. No surprise. Once they answer the phone, it is harder to get them to agree to a meeting. And once they agree to a meeting, it's harder to get them to show up for the meeting. So every one of the metrics has gotten worse. And so their metric, their overall metric of dials to appointments that are confirmed, used to be 50 to 1. So if you made 50 calls, you get 1 confirmed appointment. Now it is 150 to 1. 150. And so the point is, our selling process has to adapt because our selling environment has changed so much. You can't go door to door like you used to do. And it's not just New York City. It's harder to do it in Topeka, Kansas. There are a lot of places that you can't do door knocks like you used to. And the telephone calls don't work like they used to. And so increasingly, people need to be creative with social media, with LinkedIn, with customer events, with marketing. And that's why so many of your people you talk to are spending more in marketing and less on outbound sales. And so that's a big change right now that I'm seeing, is that the reliance on salespeople knocking on doors and making phone calls has changed. Having said that, there's always opportunity, always. And so if it gets harder somewhere, it gets easier somewhere else. And so I try to teach salespeople, there are 4 main ways to get referrals, and referral is the best way to get an appointment. Why? Not only do you get the face-to-face meeting, but you're at a higher level, you come in with credibility. So I'm here because of a referral from Todd Billiar. That's a referral. Yeah. And I'm guessing a lot of your business comes from referrals from your clients who said, we love the service that Winning by Design does. And you come in at a much higher level. So I teach salespeople, because door knocks don't work like they used to, because phone calls don't work like they used to, because pop-up ads don't work like they used to, because SEO doesn't work like it used to. How do I get new customers? There's always ways, but you can work the referral end far more successfully. So you can go with your current customers and work for their network of referrals. You can work with complementary vendors. And so one of the clients I have, Sunny, he calls himself the technology trio, and they're in Atlanta. They have a telephone sales organization, they have a photocopier sales organization, and an MSP. And they meet twice a month. They go through their opportunities top to bottom, and they give each other referrals. And so that complementary sales organization, he gets probably 10 to 15 sales a year just from the technology trio. The copier guy gets 10 to 15, the MSP gets 10 to 15, the phone guy gets 10 to 15, and they don't compete against each other. 3 people helping get appointments for each other. So 1 is customer, 2 is other professional salespeople that don't compete with you. 3 might be a professional network, might be accountants, attorneys. You can be lead generation organizations. So there are all sorts of ways to get I say that if the door knocks don't work, you still need to get those appointments. That's the key. But getting them through referrals is an art just as well. And I would rather a salesperson work on getting referrals than I would knocking on doors. Thoughts on that?
Sorry to interrupt, Mike, because this information is so helpful, and it's just, So 4 ways to get those referrals. Can you please repeat those? What are those 4 ways? I'm
trying to think of the 4th one as we think of it. So we have current customers as 1.
Customers,
What I call complementary salespeople are another.
Yes.
The 3rd would be a professional network. This might be, in your case, other business owners. Mm-hmm. And so that might be a business owners. What is number 4? We have to change that in the recording to 3. I know there's a 4th as soon as I come up with it.
So when you were talking about you have 3 different sales teams and they complement each other, like copiers, and so
yes,
is that one of the options?
Yeah, that's one. I call that complementary resellers. Okay. So real estate leasing, you may have like a business journal that needs to sell advertising copy. You may have a website services. You may have a moving company. You may have office furniture. Right. All of these people are selling into the same clients you are, and they don't compete with you. So if you have I used to do a lot with a moving company. So everybody who's moving probably needs a move. They need technology services. Mm-hmm. So that was a great lead for me. Commercial real estate, my salespeople did best with commercial real estate people because they knew when the big companies were moving in, moving out, if they're adding new people, growing. Obviously a great lead for technology. Mm-hmm. So anybody in the commercial real estate business, of course, they're suffering right now. And that's good because they need to hustle to get their business. So I like the fact that many businesses are struggling right now. Anybody in print advertising is struggling. Their sales managers are going to them saying, okay, where are your appointments? Where's your business? And they have to go out and network. And so you can get with them. They're desperate. Managed print is, I think, overall declining, which is good for us because that means they have to hustle. So the more people you network with who are hustling, that now expands your list of contacts 2, 3, 4, 5-fold, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what do you think about the circle of influencers? So one thing that we do at IT by Design is we build those partnerships with those strategic alliances. So recently we have done with Datto. So so Datto, we work with Datto as a strategic partner. And then we also work with thought leaders because, we have this Build It University and Build It conference, and we have this thought leadership educational institution that we have built within IT by Design. And we involved thought leaders, educators in the channel, people like you. And then we do see a lot of referrals coming from these strategic influencers as well in the ecosystem. Do you think MSPs can create those type of alliances within their ecosystem, the vertical that they serve? Do you think they can use that as a referral source?
Well, first of all, I love what you're doing. They used to say in the old days, you had to find customers.
Yeah.
Now we need customers to find us. And what you're doing is you're creating a great environment for customers to learn and they're going to find you because of the thought leadership you're doing. And so, yes, I know MSPs, for example, who will put on seminars. They'll bring in a cybersecurity expert, for example. So sometimes like somebody from the FBI who'll talk about the dark web, or they will, and I know one of the biggest clients I have, Red River, paid a lot of money for a well-known expert to come in and speak, but the customers wanted to see this person. He was a celebrity. I can't remember the name of the person, but they brought him in to a customer event. So customer events are a great way to bring people in too. But see, now that cold calling is less effective, customer events, your customers still want to find better solutions. They want to have ideas. They want to be stimulated. A lot of people, they want to see what's out there, what's new and what's different, because their business is changing as well. And so their business is being disrupted. They have to adapt. So how do I do this effectively? And by providing those tools, Sunny, you're providing a great service. And I think what you're doing is the services you're providing are so valuable, customers are finding you. And then as these events, they live forever, right? You can do, like Todd will put them on YouTube. You have these posted on your website. And now people searching for these ideas are going to come across you. So that's a great way. So customers are finding you, a great way to build your business. Yeah,
no, we really believe in education first. And we do it from our heart with pure intent to help our MSP partners be successful, because we understand that our partners' success is our success, because if they win more business, they win a couple of extra nodes to manage. They're gonna, if they're working with us, portion of that revenue will come to us because they will use us for NOC services for those nodes, same additional nodes. And helping them grow, our growth will be a byproduct of their growth. So we really, we have allocated a lot of resources a couple of years ago, and every year we're putting in more and more resources into education for the channel, and it really helped us grow exponentially. And I always ask this question, and this question is more of hiring related questions. So what are the attributes that you value when you are hiring a salesperson? And my second question on top of this would be that if I'm an MSP and I am just it's an owner-led sale, and I want to build my sales engine, then should I hire a sales manager first, or I start with one or two salespeople first? But let's go to the attributes question first. What are the key attributes that you look for when you hire salespeople?
Right. Well, first of all, that's a great question. And Sunny, I went down this as a student when I was at Strategic Products and Services. So as you know, I started with one salesperson, and I added one or two a year till I ended up with 15. But the company had over 100 total. So I was a small part of the overall company. And I asked the same question. So we actually put every salesperson in the company through a behavioral assessment called Predictive Index. It's very similar to DISC. It measures people on 4 sales attributes. And we sent it to a mathematician at MIT and said, we want you to do a regression analysis and tell us what's the best type of salesperson to hire. And we did this. And when the answers first came back, we were very puzzled because it didn't look like anybody we knew. And we realized we had a mixture of salespeople. We had small business, medium-sized business, and enterprise. We put them all together. And if you blended them all together, you got different attributes. So you blend them all together, it doesn't come up with anything. So we reran the exercise and we broke out small business and large business. And once that happened, it was very, very, very clear what it was. So the answer is for small business. So if an MSP is dealing with small business, there is one profile. It always works. We found it was 100% predictive, 100%. Every top achiever had it. None of the top achievers didn't have it. It was 100% predictive, but only for small business. None of our high business achievers had that same profile. So I know I'm giving it perhaps a confusing answer, but the answer is there's not one profile. For small business, there's one profile. And I call it the mark of Zorro because it looked like a Z. They were a little bit high on extroversion, high on medium on assertiveness, high in extroversion. So in DISC, it would be a high I. They had very low formality, which means following processes. They're impatient. They had low patience and then somewhat higher. So it was a Z profile. Every one of our small business people had it, every one. And so if you have a MSP who has small business, let's say 50 and under, 100 and under is a target audience, they will shoot for that one profile. However, if they're going into enterprise business or mid-market, over 100, over 1,000, that profile will not work. That will actually be counterproductive. What I found on my enterprise salespeople, there were multiple profiles that worked. So for example, one of my top people, and she earns over $1 million a year to this day, $1 million.
Wow.
She is, I would call like a project manager. So she runs the planning meetings for her clients. She actually comes in, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. She actually controls the group. Another person is great at opening accounts, but very poor at maintaining them. So he's a very good hunter, which is rare in sales. It's hard to find those hunters, as we all know. A third person was a very sociable person, but had poor product knowledge. And so what I saw was on the enterprise side, there was not one profile, there were many, but they all had a superpower. They did one thing really, really, really well. And then what I would have to do, so for example, with my salesperson who was a very sociable person, but poor product knowledge, I had to team him with a person who had good product knowledge. So the person who ran great meetings was poor at opening new accounts. So I had to help her open accounts. And once she got them, she was great. My guy at opening accounts was poor at managing them. So I had to have somebody behind him. So every top person had a superpower and what I would call an Achilles heel, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's the answer. It kind of depends, but SMB, a very defined profile, mark of Zorro. Large accounts, you can have different types of people, but they have to have a superpower. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So thank you for sharing, Mike. Predictive Index is one of the tools that we have been evaluating, and there's another one called Human Factor or something. So we have been evaluating both. Cost is a little bit different, but they do the same thing. In the past, we have been using something called, it's by Dr. Larry Little, and it's on, it's very similar to DISC, but very easy to read and understand. And they kind of attach that with the animals. Like you have the lion, you have the monkey, you have the turtle, you have the camel. And then we have been using Colby as well. We just started using it. So those are the two pieces, cognitive side and Colby, I think it covers it covers your natural wiring, what you were calling earlier that, like your kind of, some people call it genius talent, some people call it unique ability, other people call it like natural, it's just what gives you energy, right? And then one very important point that you made is that so when you have that strength, you have to just complement that strength with something that they're missing, right. And that makes it a strong team. But I'm going to ask you that one more question related to the attributes is that if there's one attribute that you think is so important, right? So I understand that, what are they really, really good at, that superpower that you called. But is there anything like one, if I'm not using Predictive Index, I'm not using Colby, I'm not using any other tool, but when I'm doing my hiring, one thing that I must look for?
It's an interesting question. I don't know if there's one. I would say there's one attribute that I care about a lot, and that's what I would call achievement drive. Does this person have a drive to be? Because I'll say this, sales performance tends to fall along a Pareto curve, which is at 80-20, which is to say 20% of your salespeople will do 80% of your business. Every sales organization I've ever seen has a distribution like that. A few top people do most of the business. So those are the people I'm looking for. I would rather hire one rainmaker than 5 average salespeople. One rainmaker. So I'm looking for, if you had to ask me, what's the number one thing I would look for? Can this person be a rainmaker? Do they have that achievement drive? Are they willing to work extra hard? Are they willing to push themselves? Are they willing to do things that don't come naturally to them? Are they willing to make those extra calls? So as an example, and I tell people, again, I love nurturing salespeople, even younger ones. And so I hired one salesperson. He was 23 years old, 1 year out of college, and he was selling for Airborne, like a route, like a FedEx, or just getting new accounts for Airborne. And I brought him in, and I just said to him, you have to get 15% better every year, 15%. And if you do that, in 17 years, you'll be making $1 million a year. And he made maybe 50,000 his first year. He made 62,000 his second year. So 15%, 15%, 15%. And sure enough, he's another one. So I've had a dozen people over my life earn $1 million a year or more. So that's a big number in sales, as we all know. How do they do it? And what he did, he had that achievement drive. I saw it. So even though he was young, even though he had no IT experience, even though he had very little sales experience, he had achievement drive. I knew when he's in Boy Scouts, he's selling more magazine subscriptions. If she's a Girl Scout, she sells more Girl Scout cookies. They raise more money for the varsity cheerleading team. They work hard. They get more tips waitressing and waitering in the summer. They just have that achievement drive to succeed. But what he did was 15%, 15%, 15% year over year over year over year. That's 1% a month, 1% a month. And sure enough, 17 years, he's earning $1 million a year. So I'm using that as an example. Consistency of the people that don't get satisfied and complacent when they reach a certain success level. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that achievement, which is hard to measure, I don't know how to measure it myself. I just see it when I see it.
Yeah, no, those are great points. A lot of valuable insights there. And Mike, I'm going to ask you from that probably startup. Some of these MSPs are not startups, but they are still. They're still at a point where everything happens with owners selling. Okay, So I'm going to give you a scenario. I'm an MSP who's very intentional about building a sales team, but so far I have had success selling myself. But I want to transform to that sales-led organization, a department that is led by a sales manager. Where do I start? What's your advice for me if I'm one of those MSPs where I have limited budget and I want to end up spending that budget with that 20% that you were talking about, those superhumans, super salespeople, so that my success ratio with the limited budget that I have is impacting in terms of building that sales engine. Where do I start? Is there any advice that you have for me? Where I want to do it, but I have limited budget and I want to get it right.
Right. Well, I would think, first of all, an owner-led sales organization can grow quite large if they're able to get what's time-consuming in sales is the prospecting and building the funnel and doing that type of thing. if you can get somebody doing that, the owner-led sales can get to 6-7 million itself, which is pretty big. And if you have 10 to 20% EBITDA, you're now creating $1 million in profit, and you can afford to hire high-level salespeople. So what I would do in that, so let's say I'm $1.5 million, I'm owner-led. What I would do is I would hire a younger person and talk to them about the dream of what they can be. They can be IT by design because you started small and you grew. And all the people who were there in the beginning are presumably still with you and growing, and now they're getting more responsibility. That can happen. So that's a very good story for a young, aggressive person. They don't need to make a lot of money up front. What's more important is they have a mentor. They have somebody who cares about that. Every study, Sunny, of millennials say the number one care about that they had, do I have somebody at work who cares about me? Do I have somebody who wants me to be successful? That is worth more than a higher salary. So you get that person and you say, look, we're going to show you the business. I'm going to need you to do all the back office stuff. I need you to learn the business. I need you to learn go through the certifications. It's going to take you 1 year to get to the point where I'll let you in front of customers, and 2 years before you're outside. But if that person flushes out opportunities, and a new person can do that, they can do that within 2 months. They can be finding opportunities. They can be networking. They can be going to social events. They can be going to a Rotary Club, Chambers of Commerce meetings. They can be networking with other people their age who are in the same boat, right? They can do that. They toss that opportunity to the owner-led salesperson who now brings it home. That's a model that can work, and that can get them to 5 or 6 million. Once you're at 5 or 6 million with decent EBITDA, you can now afford to outsource your sales, but you don't have to until you're at 5 million, in my opinion. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And what so that engagement, and people do care about their check. People do care about everything in terms of their benefits and common benefits, but people care a lot about the culture. Do I have a mentor? My learning and development within the organization and my career progression. That's a lot more important to people with that high drive. They're okay with making less in the beginning as long as they're learning and growing, and they have future growth roadmap there. And I totally agree with that. That's super important for any company to be successful and have engaged. Do they get that meaning, right? So there is that, why are they doing what they're doing, as per Simon Sinek? And people, they care more about how much you care about them than what do you know, right? More than what do you know or what are you going to teach them. Yes, it is important, but do you really care about them, and you're going to add value to them? That's a lot more important for them.
So they can, Sunny, you're exactly right. And they can do that. They don't need to hire a sales manager for that. It doesn't make sense to have a sales manager until you've got 3 or 4 salespeople anyway. But if all those people do is young, customer-oriented, hardworking, want to learn, and you can show them a path, this will get you everywhere you want to go in 2, 3, 4 years. Not 1 year, 2, 3, or 4 years. But you can build that path. And as long as they can get somebody identified on the radar screen, then the owner-led salesperson can bring in and close it. And you can do that again and again and again. If they don't have to prospect, if they don't have to do all the back-end work, they can just focus. An owner can easily go on 3 or 4 meetings a week.
Yeah.
That's it. So that's 10 hours a week. They still have 30 hours to run their business if they have other people generating appointments for them and opportunities. And if you have 3 or 4 a week, you're going to sell 1 or 2 a week, and that's a pretty good MSP right there.
That's a great piece of advice, because you want to fill your sales funnel. You can do the weekly review or that final, the last mile that you can help the team members. But in the beginning, if you have healthy sales pipeline and you have really committed, engaged team where they feel valued, they feel cared, and they're learning and they're developing, and they will help you fill your sales pipeline, which will help you have enough budget for your sales managers, and eventually you can make your sales department as a self-managed department.
Right.
So thank you so much. It was really nice and really powerful what you shared with us. Any thoughts at the end that you want to recap this podcast with?
Well, no, but I mean, you're quite a success story yourself, and so I admire people like yourself who build a great organization really from scratch. I admire people like yourself who do that, and the MSPs that are in your community are in the same boat. They can learn a lot from yourself, what you've done, and you bring great guests in who've done it as well. But we all work at a fraction of our capability. And so, as Paul Dipple says, only 10% will get above 2 million, but there's no secret to it. Larry Winget said one time, he says, there are very few good ideas in this world and not one of them is a secret. There is no secret to success. If they listen to your podcast, embrace your practices, that's all you have to, it's an execution issue. There's nothing I've said here should come as a shock to anybody. Nothing I'm doing is a secret. But attracting and hiring great people, serving customers, having a sales process, building a sales pipeline, differentiating your value, step. If they do that, they will be successful. They can take it to the next level, and that's what they all strive for. So they just need to embrace what you're preaching yourself and what you're doing yourself with your own company.
Thank you, Mike. We entrepreneurs, we do need those reminders because we are normally go, and we do sometimes, we don't take that pause. Sometimes make they reflect on stuff enough, and we need people like you where they remind us that hey, take some time to reflect on stuff and have a more of a strategic approach to things. Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurs create value, and you can create more value if you are playing on your strength and you're building your capabilities by partnering with people with complementary strengths. And that can be in the form of your team members that you're hiring full-time, part-time, or bringing in advisors, bringing in people that are smarter than you in the areas where your business needs. The slowest member of the team or slowest team of the company is the speed of the company, and more smart, intellectual, and experienced people that you bring in, that speed goes 10x. And that's what we focus here. We were MSP in New York City, as you know, Mike, and then we pivoted to look at the bigger market as a master MSP, and we were able to travel that journey from MSP to master MSP. So not only building structures within, but also building partnerships where you can expand your capabilities. That's how we lead. That's what we are doing here at IT by Design. And thank you once again so much. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Your success is very impressive. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
And Mike, if one of our viewers is thinking, wow, I could use some help with my sales processes, I could use someone to tell me where I'm wrong, or, what's the best way for someone to reach out to you, Mike, if they're interested in engaging your services?
Well, if they know Todd Billiard, they know me. So I am on LinkedIn. I do have a website. I do have an email, but Todd, you referred me so many people, so all I have to do was get in touch with Todd, and then there you go.
All right, we'll put all Mike's information down below. He's making me blush. That doesn't happen, but thank you, Mike. And to you, the viewer, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate you taking the time. And, I am fairly confident you probably took away, I normally say 1 or 2 nuggets, but I'm going to say 8 to 9, 10, maybe even more nuggets out of this powerhouse interview. And if you did, please honor us with a like, a share, and a subscribe. And we'll see everyone in the next episode.